Breaking news.
The neighbor finally spoke up, and what he said was not only strange, but also chilling. I heard someone in Hackman's house on the night of February 17th. But how could that be? Police found no signs of intrusion, no loud noises, no alarms sounded. Only one thing was completely erased, all traces. A mysterious call on February 12th that no one answered. A strange message from Hackman with cold words. And then the security camera suddenly went off. Someone was there, someone knew, someone left as soon as the police got involved. These are my perspectives based on my point of view. I don't dare to affirm anything, but if the following hypotheses are true, then Hackman's story will not end here. Chapter 1. The Unsettling Silence When Everything Stopped. On February 26, 2025, the sky of Santa Fe, New Mexico was covered in a cold gray. The distant mountains were hidden in the misty haze surrounding Old Sunset Trail, where the mansion of legendary actor Gene Hackman and his wife, pianist Betsy Arakawa, was located. Their house, which always radiated warmth and vibrancy with neighborhood conversations, walks in the garden, suddenly became frighteningly silent. Hackman's neighbors, who were accustomed to his daily presence, began to feel something was wrong. They no longer saw him on the familiar trail where he usually walked every morning. Betsy's piano no longer echoed on windy afternoons. Even their pet dog, a golden Labrador, no longer ran around the yard as usual. John Miller, who lived about 3 houses away from Hackman's, recalled, "It's been unusually quiet. We haven't seen them for days. It's not like them to disappear without a word." People in this neighborhood knew Gene Hackman was quite private, but he still maintained a regular lifestyle. Every morning, he would stop by a small cafe nearby, read the newspaper, and chat with the staff. But for the past week, his silver Jeep was no longer parked in front of the cafe. Calls from some of his close friends also went unanswered. At first, people thought the Hackmans were just on a trip, enjoying the peace as they often did. But as the days passed, the feeling of anxiety grew. On the morning of February 26th, John Miller and his wife Linda decided to do something they rarely did: knock on Hackman's door. They stood in front of the dark brown wooden door, ringing the bell twice. No one answered. Linda tried to look through the window, but it was dark inside. There was no light, no movement. They went back, trying to reassure themselves that Gene and Betsy might be napping or out without them noticing. But inside, the unease kept growing. Finally, around 1:30 p.m., John picked up the phone and called the Santa Fe police, requesting a welfare check. About 15 minutes later, 2 police cars arrived. The officers got out, observed the house for a while before knocking on the door again. Still no answer. One of the officers went around, checking the windows, but there were no signs of intrusion. Finally, they decided to get a search warrant. At 3 p.m., police officially broke down the door and entered. Immediately, a stuffy and cold air rushed out. In the large house, everything was in its place as if time had stopped. Unwashed teacups were still on the table. A book lay open on the sofa as if someone had just finished reading it. But what chilled the police was the absolute silence. No dog barking, no footsteps, no signs of life. They split up to check each room. Then an officer called out loudly, "We found something!" In the bathroom, Betsy Arakawa's body was found motionless. Police quickly determined there were no signs of violence or struggle. The room was tidy, with no signs of panic or resistance. Not far away, in the master bedroom, Gene Hackman was also found in a similar state. On the bedside table, an old photo of him and his wife was placed neatly, like a lingering memory. Their dog, a loyal companion for many years, lay at the foot of the bed, as if he had never left them. The police officers looked at each other, speechless. Silence enveloped them, like the atmosphere of the house itself in recent days. The big question: why didn't anyone report to the police sooner? Although Gene and Betsy's absence had lasted for days, why did no one call the police until February 26th? Some neighbors admitted they felt something was strange, but no one dared to act. They didn't want to invade the couple's privacy, especially since Gene Hackman was known to be a person who didn't like to be disturbed. "We thought they were just away. We didn't want to overreact," another neighbor, Susan Taylor, said in tears. But when everything came to light, everyone felt remorse. Could they have done something sooner? If someone had called the police sooner, would things have been different? News of Gene Hackman's passing quickly spread across the United States and the world. His fans expressed their sadness, remembering his iconic roles in The French Connection, Unforgiven Superman. Many who were close to Gene were also shocked. An old colleague said, "Gene was one of the greatest, not just as an actor, but as a person. This is heartbreaking." Santa Fe police held a press conference that evening, confirming that there were no signs of violence and the investigation was ongoing. But a big question still lingered. What really happened inside that house? And is there something we don't know? The story is not over. And the answer may lie in the next revelations from Gene Hackman's neighbors. Chapter 2. The Unanswered Call. Who tried to reach them? Life in the quiet neighborhood on Old Sunset Trail had always been peaceful. But now, as small details were pieced together, Gene Hackman's neighbors began to realize that there had been many unusual signs before, signs that no one really paid attention to until it was too late. On February 12, 2025, a call came to Betsy Arakawa's phone in the late afternoon. According to telecommunications records, the call lasted exactly 47 seconds before being disconnected. No one knows who called, and more importantly, no one on the other end answered. Strangely, according to a source from the investigative agency, that call did not appear in Betsy's regular contact list. Not friends, not relatives, nor anyone that the police could easily identify. A close friend of Betsy, Linda Carter, recalled that she had texted Betsy that day to check on her, but received no response. It wasn't like her. She always responded, even if just a short text. She thought Betsy might be busy or resting, but now, looking back, she couldn't help but feel something was wrong. If Betsy really received the call that day, why didn't she answer anyone afterward? Gene Hackman's neighbors couldn't remember exactly when they last saw him. Some said it was on February 10th when he drove home after stopping by a grocery store. Others said they might have seen his silhouette through the window on February 11th or 12th. But from that day on, no one seemed sure of anything anymore. The only thing they clearly remembered was a strange detail: the lights inside the house. John Miller, who called the police on February 26th, recalled, "We saw lights flickering. It wasn't normal. It was like someone was turning them on and off randomly." Between February 14th and 17th, some neighbors noticed the lights in Hackman's house turning on and off at unusual hours, sometimes at 2 or 3 a.m. One person even said that once, the lights flashed continuously for a few minutes, as if someone was trying to signal. However, looking from the outside, no one saw any movement inside the house. No silhouettes behind the curtains, no sounds coming from it. Everything was like a ghostly play, where the light was the only thing showing something was happening, but no one knew exactly what. Santa Fe police later checked Gene Hackman's phone data and found another strange thing. His phone still received signals until February 17th. That meant Hackman's phone was still on, still able to receive calls and messages for 5 days after the mysterious call to Betsy. But strangely, no calls were answered, no messages were sent, no signs that anyone had used the phone. A longtime friend of Gene Hackman, David Foster, called him on February 15th. The call rang, but no one answered. "I thought maybe he was just busy, but something felt off. Gene always called back. Always." From February 18th onward, Hackman's phone was completely disconnected. That meant two possibilities. Either someone turned it off or the phone was no longer in a signal area. The biggest question is, what really happened inside that house for nearly 2 weeks? If Gene and Betsy had passed away before February 26th, why was Hackman's phone still active until February 17th? If someone was in the house between February 14th and 17th, who turned the lights on and off? And if they needed help, why didn't anyone hear anything? A terrifying hypothesis was put forward. Someone might have been in the house, with them, or after they were no longer there. But if there was someone, who was it? And why were there no signs of violence or intrusion? Neighbors began asking questions they had never thought of before. Some regretted not reporting to the police sooner. Others began to feel scared, because if something scary really happened inside that house, someone might still be lurking somewhere. As police continued to investigate, they realized that each new clue only made the case stranger. Who was the caller to Betsy Arakawa on February 12th? Why was Hackman's phone still active until February 17th, but no one answered? What did the flashing lights in the house mean? Who was the last person to actually see Hackman and Betsy? These questions remain unanswered, but as police continue to review every small detail, one thing is certain. The silence on Old Sunset Trail was not a coincidence, and this mystery is not over. Chapter 3. The Neighbor's Confession. I heard someone else in the house. The silence covering Old Sunset Trail was no longer the only thing that unsettled the residents here. After police released the preliminary investigation results, a neighbor finally broke the silence, and what they revealed made everything more frightening than ever. On March 2nd, 2025, 5 days after police found Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa, an anonymous witness contacted the authorities. This person lived right next door to Hackman, just a few steps away, and they had something they had never told anyone before. I swear I heard someone in that house on the night of February 17th. This confession immediately raised a series of new questions. February 17th, that is, 5 days after the mysterious call to Betsy, and also the last day Hackman's phone was active. What happened that night? The neighbor said that around 1 a.m., while they were watching TV in the living room, a small sound came through the window. At first, they thought it was just the normal sound of an old house, but then they heard it again. And again. Footsteps, not loud, not hurried, but gentle, slow, as if someone was moving carefully inside Hackman's house. It wasn't Gene, and it wasn't Betsy. They were always quiet at night. But this was different. The witness described the sound lasting for several hours with occasional pauses, as if someone was standing still in the middle, then continuing to move. They didn't see anyone through the window, but they were sure of one thing: someone was inside. Police thoroughly checked Hackman's house but found no signs of forced entry. No pried windows, no broken locks. So, if someone was really in the house on the night of February 17th, how did they get in? A worrying hypothesis was put forward. That person might have been in the house before. What does this mean? Maybe Hackman and Betsy let someone into the house, but then that person never left. Or someone got inside without anyone knowing, hiding for days. But if someone was hiding in the house, why did they turn the lights on and off late at night? Why didn't they take anything valuable? And most importantly, what did they do inside that house between February 12th and February 26th? Another big question arose. If they heard strange noises on the night of February 17th, why didn't the witness report to the police then? The person was silent for a long time before answering. I didn't want to believe it, and honestly, I was scared. The truth is, even living in a peaceful neighborhood, they felt a vague fear creeping in those nights. Ever since the lights started flashing abnormally, ever since Gene and Betsy no longer appeared outside as usual, something was wrong. But they didn't want to think about the worst. What if I had called earlier? Maybe things would be different now. This regret was not just for that witness. It spread throughout the neighborhood. Everyone realized they had ignored the strange signs, had not paid attention to the small changes that could signal something much more terrible. What worried the police most was another possibility. If someone was in the house on the night of February 17th, they might have left before February 26th, without anyone knowing. But who were they, and where did they go? Another hypothesis made everyone shudder. What if that person was still somewhere nearby? Neighbors began to feel more uneasy than ever. Some no longer dared to sleep alone in their homes. Others installed more security cameras, and they all shared one worry. If someone really appeared in Hackman's house that night, would they come back? This case, instead of being clarified, became stranger and stranger. The biggest question remains unanswered. On the night of February 17th, who was in that house?